We have our reporter Simon McGregor-Wood standing by in Marine Le Pen's base, which is Henin-Beaumont, and Annelise Borges, who will join us live from Paris. Let's first go to Simon McGregor-Wood first. Simon, good to see you. So tell us exactly where you are and why the area is significant for Marine Le Pen.
Well, it's often been called part of her sort of heartland, if you like. I'm in the northeast of France. It's an industrial area that has suffered a lot in recent years economically. She would call it deindustrialized. This is a mining community that for some years now has been voting for National Front local councils. There are a lot of working class people here, very high unemployment. It's vulnerable to her kind of radical populism. People here are out of love with political elites. There is widespread disaffection with the political class. So in a sense, it's a place that is vulnerable to her promises of quick and radical solutions. She's cast herself as an outsider, someone who's going to shake up the system. She's cast herself as someone who wants to reinforce French identity. She is asking people here to indulge in her narrative, which essentially accuses the outsiders of all the problems that are currently plaguing France. And it is a message that for several years now has been very welcome here in this kind of town.
It's also where she's decided to cast her vote, isn't it?
Yes, it is. She formed a sort of symbolic attachment with this particular town several years ago. She bought a property in the area. She has no other connections to it than that, but it is, in a sense, for her, an important geographical symbol. You'll remember that years ago, the National Front's heartland was in the south, when the party was run by her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen. Part of her success, if you like, has been to broaden its appeal geographically, for sure, into this part of France, but also in other demographic terms across different parts of French society that have been drawn to her message. But yeah, sure, this is an important heartland for her, hence her presence here. She cast her vote in this school behind me about an hour ago. She'll hang around and she'll turn up at the hall here in this town to await the election results, with all of the world's media assembled with her at about 8 o'clock French time later this evening.
OK, Simon, thank you for now. Let's go to our reporter Annelise Borges, who is in central Paris for us. Annelise, the latest polls, I believe, suggest that millions of French voters are not actually going to have made a decision until they actually enter the polling booth. What are people telling you where you are, at the polling station where you are?
Indeed, those latest polls suggesting that up to a third of the electorate here in France had not made up their minds in terms of who they were going to vote for president as late as late last night. And so many will make up their minds as they walk into polling stations like the one you see behind me. But at least one voter here in the 7th district of Paris knew exactly who he was going to be voting for when he walked in this polling station. François Fillon has just left this polling station in the 7th district of Paris. The mainstream Republican candidate came here to vote just a few moments ago under a heavy security scheme. He had 2 police cars accompanying his vehicle, a total of 20 security agents following him, and of course another dozen of police officers who are still based here in this polling station. And François Fillon is a political heavyweight here in France. He is, of course, the former prime minister. He was considered a front-runner up until late last year when a series of scandals hit his campaign hard. But François Fillon is still considered to be one of the 4 main candidates who are likely he still has a chance at least. He is neck and neck with the other 3, and in this highly unpredictable race for president of France.
Annelise, we've heard a lot about voter apathy, how people might actually abstain altogether from even turning up to vote. Have we got any indication, I know it's still quite early in the day, about what the turnout's been like?
We are expecting figures from the Interior Ministry shortly, Malin, but we understand that up to 35% of French voters might not show up to vote today. We spoke to many of those voters, and they told us that they are so discredited. They don't believe in politics anymore, and they would just abstain from voting today. But the same people told us that they might show up to vote in the second round, especially if they see one of the candidates that they really don't want to see become the next president of France. Of course, history tells us that this low turnout will be a key variable, and we are expecting, as I said, those figures later today, but up to 35% of the French voters might not show up to vote this Sunday.
OK, good to speak to you. That was our reporter Annelise Borges there in Paris, and of course Simon McGregor-Wood will be speaking to both of them throughout the rest of the day for more coverage on the French election.